Meeting order at 7. Christie, if you want to do a roll call?
Keith?
Here.
Tamara? Here. Giovanna? Here. Jim?
Here.
Jet?
Here.
Randy?
Here.
And Tara is absent.
Awesome. We have a quorum. Who stands for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome, thank you. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Jim? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Is everybody? We have some special guests.
We do, Mr. Salmon.
Yeah, never a bad day to celebrate the students that we have in our school and in our district for sure. So National Performing Arts Month, is that what you told me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So we have some performing groups for you this evening. We're going to let the choir go first with Mrs. Shute because they have some other obligations they need to take care of. They're going to stand right out here in front of you and sing this direction.
Bluetooth speaker.
So we have
This is my accompanist.
solo. That's funny. That's true. We have district solo and small ensemble contest at Green Valley this weekend,
Yes.
and so this is one of our small ensembles for our
Yes,
choir.
and we're one short because she's playing soccer right now, but this is the rest.
Girls, will you introduce yourselves? Tell us what grade you're in.
I'm McKinley Munson. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Isabel Mejia, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Maddie Gilmore Johnson, and I'm a junior.
I'm Nora Greaves, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Cassidy Morris. I'm a senior.
Still introduced? Okay. So, we are McKinley's SSA, and we will be performing Why Does the Willow Weep by Shram and Oh No by Gray.
Why does the willow weep? What secrets does she keep? Is there a broken heart
changes me. The church of the sea, but were I in a foreign land, they find no change in me. 'Tis true that dry, behold the horn, the valley where we met. I do not see the hawthorn tree, but how can I forget? Forget, but how can I forget? Forget, but how can I forget? For all there are so many things, recall the past to me. The breeze upon the sunny hills, the billows of the sea, the rosy tint that decks the sky before the sun is set. Every leaf I look upon forbids me to forget, forbids me to forget, forbids me to forget, forget. Oh no, we never mention him. His name is never heard. My lips are now forbid to speak that once familiar word. From sport to sport, they hurry me to banish my regrets. And when they win a smile from me, they think that I forget, forget. They think that I forget. Oh no, mention him at all. Oh no, never mention him at all. We never mention him. We never mention him. We never mention him at all. We never mention him at all.
I don't have an official ratings form right now, but I'll give that an exemplary for sure.
Parts and all.
I'll let the judges know Saturday when we get the grading out. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And we also have Miss Davis, who is our speech and debate teacher with us tonight, and she has brought everybody, or not everybody?
No.
Not quite everybody who was in our Readers Theater group, who, as I said last time, won the conference tournament this year for MRVC. So congratulations on that. And they are here to perform a small piece of their performance as well.
So usually we have like boxes that we move around to create different stage pictures, but we're just gonna stand and read a short section of it for you. Whenever you guys are ready.
We didn't notice right away. We couldn't feel it. We were distracted back then by weather and war.
We had no interest in the turning of the earth.
Hurricanes came and went.
Summer ended.
A new school year began.
The clocks ticked as usual.
On the 6th of October, the experts went public.
This, of course, is the day we all remember. There'd been a change, they said.
A slowing, and that's what we called it from then on.
The slowing.
We have no way of knowing if this trend will continue. Our days had grown by 56 minutes in the night.
At the beginning, people stood on street corners and shouted about
The end of the world!
The grocery stores were soon empty.
The freeways clogged immediately. People heard the news and wanted to move.
They scurried in every direction, but of course, there
was nowhere on earth to go.
In March of 2020, our world was changed.
During the COVID-19 pandemic,
Businesses closed.
Flights were canceled.
spring break turned into summer break, turned into fall break.
It is during catastrophic and life-altering events
That the people cling to the ordinary as a way to cope.
In our story, Julia and those around her struggle and adjust through a time of extraordinary change.
as the Earth's rotation begins to slow.
It seems like the world is ending just as Julia's life is beginning.
What will she cling to?
How will she cope as she navigates
The age of miracles.
The news broke on a Saturday. In our house, the change had gone unnoticed. My friend Hannah had slept over the night before. We woke up. In an hour, we'd both dressed in blue soccer uniforms.
I had the weirdest dream last night.
You always have weird dreams.
In the dream, I was at my house, but it wasn't my house. And I was with my mom, but she wasn't my mom.
I never remember my dreams.
Turn on the TV. Right now.
We were used to my mother's rhetoric. She talked big. She overstated and oversold.
Something god-awful is happening.
We were slow to react.
Are you watching this? Joel, I'm serious. This is hellacious.
How could we have known that the workings of the universe had finally made appropriate the fire of my mother's words? When we finally understood what was happening that morning, Hannah and I rushed outside to check the sky for evidence.
But the sky was just the sky.
An average cloudless blue.
The sun shone unchanged.
Had we tossed a soccer ball into the air, we might not have even noticed that it fell a little faster to the earth, that it hit the ground a little harder than before.
I was 11 years old, my best friend beside me.
Not a single object out of place or amiss.
In the kitchen, my mother was already scanning the shelves for essentials.
I just want to know where all the emergency supplies are. We don't know what might happen.
I think I should go home. My mom's probably freaking out too.
Had I known how much time would pass before we'd see each other again, I would have
Said a different goodbye.
There was no footage to show on television.
No burning buildings.
Or broken bridges.
No twisted metal or scorched earth.
No one was wounded.
No one was dead.
It was at the beginning a quite invisible catastrophe.
I think this explains why what I felt at first was not fear, but my mother was terrified. Periodically, she went around the house checking faucets, inspecting the color and clarity of the water.
Nothing's going to happen to the water, honey.
You're acting like this isn't a big deal.
Tell me what you want me to do, Helen, and I'll do it.
People are panicking,
said my mother.
What about the people who run the water systems and the power grid? What about the food supply? What if they abandon their posts?
All we can do is ride this thing out.
Oh, that's a good plan. That's a really excellent plan.
I watched her hurry out of the kitchen.
I bet things will turn out okay. I bet it'll be fine.
Come on, Helen. I'm betting this whole thing will blow over.
Not everyone panicked. Sylvia, my piano teacher who lived across the street,
Went right on as if nothing at all had happened.
Hi, Julia.
She smiled at my mother, but did not say her name.
You don't seem very worried.
Que sera. That's what I always say. Whatever will be, will be.
I liked Sylvia, but I knew my mother didn't.
Sylvia was cool.
And wispy.
It smelled like lotion.
Or maybe I'm just not thinking straight. I'm doing a cleanse.
What's a cleanse?
It's a fast. No food, just water for 3 days. I'm sure your mother has done one before.
Not me.
Anyway, don't let this stop you from practicing, Julia. See you Wednesday.
At the conference tournament, besides winning it overall, Nora Greaves also got second reader in the whole conference, so that's awesome. That's only one part of speech and debate with Readers Theater. There's also the one act, and then there's also debate. And then on top of that, there's individual events as well. And so Allie Dickey also qualified for the state competition this past weekend in Lincoln Douglas debate. Oak Grove's first state qualifier in debate. So congratulations. And Saul Logan in the red sweatshirt also qualified for state in storytelling.
Great job, guys.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you.
Loving that page flipping too.
In unison. We're moving right into the wrestlers.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Yep. Wrestlers and coaches, come on up. When you can. Right out in the spotlight like you like it. Brother and sister team, and then Caleb as well. So Lauren and Ethan Phillips and Caleb all qualified for state this year as our wrestling program. Coach Scully is our head boys coach. And Coach Phillips, dad, also, is our head girls coach. And then Coach Butler is back there as well. Anybody else that I'm missing? Okay. So Lauren has quite a list of firsts you probably remember from last year. But this year, and I'll see if I get all these right, okay? So she became our first ladies district champion, right? Our first female to qualify for state, and then our first to medal at state as well. Anything I'm missing?
Great job.
Only one left is the first female state champion, so lofty goals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, she's a sophomore, she's got 2 more years, and so Lauren got 3rd place this year. Ethan couldn't let her outdo that, so as a state qualifier this year, he also placed 3rd at the state tournament. Okay. And then Caleb qualified for the state tournament for the 4th time. He's a 4-time state medalist, 2nd place this year to one of the toughest high school wrestlers that I have truly ever seen wrestle, a kid from St. Michael's. And so Caleb got 2nd place this year. So what were the 4 places all year? I didn't write it down.
4th my freshman year, 2nd my sophomore year, 3rd my junior year, and 2nd this year.
So 2 seconds, a 3rd, and a 4th. So awesome. Coaches, what would you like to say? Go ahead. Put you on the spot.
Lauren still has 2 more years, so we're super excited to see what she can do in the next 2 years. Hopefully she becomes first female state champion. The 2 boys are going to be greatly missed because they're seniors. We're going to miss their leadership in the room and outside of the room in the classroom. So these are our 3 kiddos that qualified and placed this year.
Ethan has some schools looking at him for athletics, and Caleb has also already signed with William Jewell to represent.
Congratulations, guys. We're proud of you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm proud of you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, coaches. Appreciate all you guys do.
And thanks, parents.
And parents, yeah.
Bye, Miss Katie.
Yep. Yes, thank you.
Good.
And the final acknowledgement is just to thank all you guys. This is Board Appreciation Month, so we do appreciate the service that you give to our school and to our community for serving on the school board. Last few years on the school board between COVID and construction and hiring a new superintendent has required a lot of your time, so we thank you as a school district for all that you do. We appreciate you guys.
Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Heather. Second. Jim with second. Any questions? All in favor? Everyone? We have some action items. Approval of the energy management year 2 review.
Yeah.
Hard act to follow with the singing, and but I'll try my best.
What do you got?
Don't the best voice. I'm Garrett Woldridge, and this is Paul Jensen. We're with Navitas ESCO, energy services company. We have a contract with you guys, so we work closely with the district, and we're here to present the year 2 energy savings results. And we had a presentation. I have a flash drive. I don't know if it's updated or. So we finished the year 2 in November. You guys signed the contract with us about, I think, 2.5 years ago. The performance period started November 1st, 2021, and went through, 2020. Year 1 ended 2021, and then year 2 just ended at the end of 2022. So.
In total, is about $5.4 million worth of work, lighting, HVAC, some BAS upgrades as well.
Yeah, the estimated savings that was coming was about $6 million over a 15-year period, is what it was estimated. Right now, I guess we're just gonna jump into it without. Yeah. So you can go to the next slide. So like I said, we just finished year 2. We're gonna make this. Thank you. Make this fairly quick and brief, but if there's anybody new here, we'll do a brief recap of what was performed. So there was lighting upgrades, we replaced HVAC systems, DDC temperature controls. The big thing was building automation system. You had some buildings that were not operated ideally, we'll say. So we've made some improvements there. So what was projected through the first 2 years, the first column there, total projected financial benefit 177 and then 182 for year 2, adding up to about 360. What we've actually captured is the word I'll use, is 412 for the first year, and that includes a $112,000 rebate, energy rebate, a one-time energy rebate. So that's why it's only reflected with the year 1. And then year 2, which is the one we just finished, total to about $320,000 in savings. So surplus of the far right column, after 2 years, we have exceeded the expectations by $372,000 in savings. So that's all kept by you guys. So it's kind of just $372,000 of gravy, I'll say. Any questions on any of that?
That's awesome.
So we keep performance metrics. What we call an EUI is an energy per square footage. So it blends electric use and gas usage into one metric per the square footage. You guys were at a 65 over the entire district during the baseline period, which was 2016 through 2019, as we collected those bills. You're down to a 41 for the last year. So that's...
Yeah, and as you can see, a lot of the savings happens over the summer. So we do setbacks. When people aren't here, we set the buildings back, and that saves a considerable amount. And so summertime is always a great opportunity with the limited schedules and the limited programs going on to have those building setbacks and capture a lot of energy savings.
Yeah, and 41 is one of the better that we've seen with all the projects we've done. So it's a testament to the work that Jeff Webster has helped work with me, and yeah, you guys are doing really well.
I get notifications from other superintendents when they present, and they're like, they're talking about Oak Grove, they're talking about all Oak Grove savings. We're kind of their prodigy of selling because the savings has exceeded so much that was predicted.
Yes.
Yes, this is a breakdown of where the savings comes from. So it's divided into kilowatt hours, which is your total electric usage, electric demand, which is the peaks essentially of high usage in the mornings and hot afternoons, water, and then gas. So key takeaway is you saved about $299,000 in this year in pure utility savings. Quick, so you get all these savings, you're worried about spaces being hot or cold. We monitor temperatures on a daily basis to make sure spaces get up to what their occupied set points are. When they're not, when they're out of line, Jeff works on them. We send them over to the team to address those issues. So it hasn't been at the detriment of comfort. That's what I'll say.
You sure? Some of those 58s and stuff might be people arguing that at 60 degrees.
So on the ends, so these are days of the week. There should be seven bands. And so on Saturday there, it did get down lower. And this was a few weeks ago, I believe. About a month ago.
Yeah. So we have scheduled in events when they're during the unoccupied period, but in general, just let the temperatures just float down, and then when they're about an hour before school starts or whatever, we let them shoot back up or shoot down.
Oh, so you guys monitor this, and how closely is this monitored? Daily, hourly?
Well, Jeff, the team, I work with the facilities team, but we know which areas are troubled areas, but in general, we make sure everything's up to temp by the time. And we started out very conservatively, and slowly, as we could prove that it was going to be at that temp, we can get a little bit more aggressive.
And there is going to be hot and cold calls here and there. It's just a natural part of building systems. And so occasionally you're going to have a hot call or a cold call. A fan belt might come off, or there might be an issue with the equipment. And Jeff's really good at responding to those. And sometimes he'll call us and ask us if we see something that's going on from our end, because we collect zone temperatures, fan statuses, all sorts of stuff from the BAS, and have those in our analytics program so we can pull those up and see how things have been working either yesterday, a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. So.
Well, that's the reason I ask, because there are times if it's an equipment issue, obviously if somebody doesn't say anything, then it doesn't get noticed, and until teachers start complaining.
Literally today, one of the air handlers at the middle school, I noticed it wasn't running as it was supposed to. I sent it to Jeff. Jeff's out today. He sent it to Dave. Dave got it was a loose belt, and it was back up and running in 20 minutes.
Or like you're saying, maybe a couple days later, they mentioned to Jeff or somebody, and they said, "Oh, you know, my room was cold. What's going on?" So yeah, we can go back and pull that up and look at it.
Any other questions on that?
Kind of cold in here.
It is. It was hot.
Good.
We overrode it.
So here's a breakdown of the dollar savings for this year. So electrical demand saved consumption-wise 2.7 million kilowatt hours. Electric demand 4,000 kilowatts. Gas energy 5,400 therms, and water consumption 620 kilograms. It's kilogallons. Sorry. Yeah. And the dollar savings again is 299,700. So the above is the projections of what we expected, and then below is what we actually captured.
So based on those kind of projections, where will we be when we've paid off the equipment and we're break-even point?
Not about a break-even point, but we were expected over 15 years to capture 3 million, and we are on pace to capture 6 million over that same time period. So basically,
15-year time period, so probably about 7.5 years would be.
We would have saved enough to pay for the project.
I assume there's some loss of efficiency when you get the 15-year-old equipment.
Yeah.
There's a little bit. A lot of it comes down to runtime, though.
and what we're doing is limiting runtime, so it does extend the life of the equipment.
Yeah, that's another thing that's not captured is just like if you drive your car a little bit less, it's not going to necessarily, if you drive it half as much, it's not going to necessarily last twice as long, but it will certainly last longer. Same thing with the equipment. A lot of HVAC equipment is 15-year lifespan, up to about 25-year lifespan. So if you can take some runtime off of it and cut it in half especially, we definitely see extended life on it. Extended life on the maintenance too. So instead of having to change filters as often, you can change a little less often, belts last longer.
They can focus on preventative maintenance instead of reactive.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not being critical per se. Our district was a part of a failed one previously that left a bad taste in, unfortunately, previous administration's mouth. But I'm excited that, no offense to anybody that works for energy companies, but I'd much rather have our funds going to kids than companies.
Yeah, understood. I hear you. And we want to stick with you, so we're with you for 3 years, and we're in the middle of year 3, and we really want to show you guys where the savings is at, and make sure that you guys are proud of the investment that you guys made. So, and that there has been a little bit of a bad reputation in the industry in the past years, and so the gentleman that started our company, Kobe, this was one of the things that he really wanted to do was stick around with the clients and show those energy savings. So.
Is Ryan still around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we're staying in for him tonight because he had a previous obligation. I think that's really all we had. Is there any other questions? Comments?
Appreciate the savings. That's good stuff. And monitoring too, so that we know what's going on. Yeah. That's good.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I have a motion to approve the energy management year 2 review.
I'll second that.
Mr. Ramsey. Motion and second to approve the review. All in favor? Everyone? Science textbook adoption.
Got a slideshow here. Chris Smith and I would like to just tell you about our science adoption. One of the things that we've noticed for quite a few years is definitely need to upgrade some of our resources. Science is one of those I think that is a high priority for us. It's been several years since our science resources have been updated.
More
High
than several
school,
that you teach out of it.
the last high school adoption, I was part of the last high school adoption, so when I was teaching there, so don't tell you anything, but high school, middle school, both 2005, the elementary and the primary, both used a lot of supplementals back from 2015. We really saw the need to update a lot of our resources, and new science materials include new technology that's coming online access, web-based components. That really leads into our district vision of providing innovative opportunities and experiences for students, which Mrs. Hampton's going to cover that here shortly. So this was a good opportunity for us to look at some of our resources. The new materials, the old materials were really outdated. The MAP test has changed 5 times since the last science adoption. There was no such thing as an EOC at the high school. The Missouri Learning Standards have changed several times, and really, if you look at your lower levels in elementary and middle school, they spiral those, and what I mean by that is every grade level teaches life science, earth science, and physical science at all grade levels, and so our resources really need to be updated. All of the new resources that we reviewed are all aligned to the Missouri Learning Standards and the Next Generation Science Standards, the NGSS. So that was a critical piece. The best part is the funding of this. ESSER 3 should cover the entire cost of our new science curriculum. And there was a 20% component in ESSER 3 that goes to address student learning loss. Updating curriculum is something that qualifies for that, so we're expecting that we should be fully reimbursed through ESSER 3 for new science materials, which is always nice. Some of the data that led us to this also, this is our science MPI. If you remember back in January, I kind of showed you some of our preliminary MAP numbers and EOC numbers and performance data from the state. These are actual updated MAP numbers. You'll notice right there, the first one, the Science MPI, that's our MAP Performance Index. We're the highest science scores in the entire conference. So I want to give a shout out to all of our administrators, all of our buildings, our teachers, our staff, highest MAP scores in the conference. The one on the right is an overall score for all of our academic areas. Tonight we're focusing on science, but the academic score on the right focuses on all of our areas, ELA, math, social studies, and science. Once again, the highest scores in the conference. The state average in MAP was a 371. The state won't give us an average for the overall academic score, but to me, those are fantastic scores, a big testament to our staff, especially with some of our limited resources that we've been using. So big shout out to them. There's still some areas for growth. That MAP index score of 382.4, 400 is what the state considers kind of your goal, is to get to 400. So we still have some room to improve, and we want to try and do that with some of our new resources.
What's the range? If 400 is the goal, what's the range that you can actually score?
You can get to 450, but 400 is considered, they call it on target. This is a very good score. If you remember, our social studies scores were actually 401, so the social studies scores were on target. This was, I think math is 374, so we're anywhere from 374 to 401, so we're in that range. So really, really good scores. And I'll have some more of those scores for you in the future. Tonight I just want to talk a little bit about science. And this is a good time to start kind of a curriculum review cycle. This is something that we are going to be moving towards. So this year, 2023 science. Next year, we're going to review social studies, math and ELA. Those are actually, those current subscriptions that we have with math and ELA are due to expire in 25 and 26. So we're going to review them, and then fine arts and practical arts. So a 6-year review cycle is just a good practice. You may not have a new adoption, but you definitely want to go back, review things, update materials. You update them every year, but a full review cycle every 6 years. It's kind of where we're heading. Our committee, I thought it was important that we have representation from every building. So Chris Smith was a huge part of our committee. Mike Phillips, who's the district department chair. Jana Sattler, Sarah Vasquez, Denise Sutton, Connie Barrett, Jennifer Holliday, Michelle White, Megan Ray, Wendy Love, Cassie Miller, Deb Nelson, Jerry Pearson, and Sarah Bykowski all helped out on this committee. If you'll notice, we have not only science teachers from every building, we also have special education teachers from every building. That was critical. We have some input from our special education department as well. So that they were a huge factor for us in our committee. So they spent hours and hours putting in a lot of time. They did a fantastic job, and I think we've got the best resources for our district. We looked at the top 6 national vendors: McGraw-Hill, National Geographic, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Discovery Amplify, and Savvis. We currently use a couple of these throughout our district. McGraw-Hill is some of our current science materials. Savvis, which is the old Prentice Hall, was our high school science materials. We currently use Savvis and McGraw-Hill for other subject areas at our lower level. So those are kind of the big ones in the nation. We reached out to those companies. We asked them to send us samples, which I've got. I'll hand around a couple samples here in a second. They did 1-hour demos. The top 3 we brought back for second demos, and a couple of them we actually gave us 3 demos. They really got into the units and answered a lot of our questions from the committee. We had a scoring guide. We met half a dozen times at least. We had subs. The building principals helped us tremendously. They allowed us to get subs out in the building so that committee could meet, go through those demonstrations. So there was a lot of effort, a lot of time put in by our committee members. Every student in the district, this is K-12, they will have hard copies and an online component for both, and this is a full 6-year subscription. So substantial investment by the district, so we wanted to make sure and get the absolute best resource that we could, and I think we did that. Questions kind of on just the process. I just want to give you an idea what the process looked like.
I appreciate you involving the stakeholders that are the foot soldiers, as Richard Phillips, grandfather of those 2 kids, calls it.
Yeah, and that was really important. That's one thing we said a lot was, hey, you're the ones that have to live with this. You're the classroom teacher, so we want to make sure that you're comfortable with this and your department's good with it. So Ms. Smith's going to kind of take you through these and give you some demonstration. I've got some hard copies that I'll hand out while she's going through.
Okay, so I also want to thank the committee and all the people involved. They spent hours going through every resource, comparing grade level to grade level to see if there was vertical alignment, to see if things flowed like they wanted to do. We worked really hard between buildings, trying to make sure this K-5 is going to meet where we need to be 6 to 12. So for kindergarten through 5th grades, they decided to go with Cengage or National Geographic is their choice. The things that they highlighted for that, when we get into this, no, that's okay. So this is some screenshots of the National Geographic on the left. There's an explorer that guides them through each section. So that ties them to a story that will pull their interest. You can see the speaker icons throughout. That is where it'll read aloud to them if they want that. So there's accessibility features built in. On the upper right is there's online virtual simulated labs. So in that instance, it's a marble drop. So you pull the spring back and load which marbles you want, and then it goes into the bucket. And then on the bottom of that screenshot is a camera. So they take a picture of their success or their results, and then they put that into the science diary, the science notebook. So that result can go to the teacher. So that was an important component for all of the teachers, is to have that virtual lab type experience for the kids. The other item for K-5 is the print and online assessments. And they felt like this company fit their time frame, their allotted time frames for science better, without them having to go through and cut lessons out. So, so that is K-5 choice.
With the labs, are there also like resources for hands-on labs and not just the virtual? Yeah, there's consumables that they get, there's we're going through and comparing if it's gonna be cheaper for us to get the items for the labs, because we feel like they have a lot of that stuff already. So we've got the list, we have to go through and compare, but there are hands-on labs throughout both companies. And then 6th to 12th grade, really strongly agreed on McGraw-Hill Inspire Science. So that will be 6th to 8th grade, and then biology and chemistry for high school. And then here's a few screenshots of what they have to offer as well. Can you put that top on? Sure. On that Inspire Sparks. They also have, each company also feeds right into Google Classroom. So you take the assignment, send it to the kids through Google Classroom. There's a lot of online features. And then the left is a screenshot of what the teacher sees and what they can apply to the students. So go ahead. This is just a preview of some of the online components. So that just is a preview of some of the online tools that they'll have available. All of the staff agreed that we want the digital, we want to have online tools, but we also want to be able to do the hands-on and still have, you know, the science notebooks that they actually write in on paper. You know, there's a mix of that, and the teachers can kind of adapt to where, you know, depending on the grade level, how they want to approach that. But with this, there's 2 or 4 hours of training? 4. So we're going to have an hour of training in April just for them to get on to the platform, get logged in, and kind of be able to look around throughout it over the summer. And then 4-hour training in August when we come back, and then another training probably in October as a follow-up to that, so that the teachers feel comfortable with the resources.
Is this something that kids would get like every single year new?
Yes. That's part of the subscription, it's no additional cost.
Part of it.
I should cut down on copy costs, right?
Right.
Do you guys have any questions?
Does Inspire and the different companies, I mean, they talk to each other from the elementary through to middle school, high school?
Yes, they compared quite a bit, even though we were close to going all with one company, but at the end, National Geographic just fit better for primary and elementary kids. But that was part of what we looked at, the vertical alignment throughout, so that we were making sure that we hit. With National Geographic, they do physical earth, science both, they do each component.
couldn't help but look at some of those things and think to myself, oh, I know 2 senators that would nix pages and pages and pages of those things. They would consider it woke.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yes, thanks for all the effort that went into it too. And the funding part, yeah.
I think that's one question that I have is, as we're moving forward, are we putting a thinking budget, like making sure we're putting it in
So,
for each of those
what was it,
others?
K-12 total, everything for 6 years, roughly?
It's right about 200,000.
So we'll have to look and move about the same into the budget the next 5 years after this, even though ESSER funds is gonna pay for this, but then district dollars will have to going forward to update the other secretaries.
And while that's a chunk of money, I mean, comparatively, back when we were purchasing text for a subject, just in a subject in high school, with then just breaking through the barriers of online things, they were very, very expensive text per child then. And to have those consumables that that's again, a lot of money, but comparatively, it's less than what I thought it would be.
Any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the K-12 science textbook adoption. Mr. David? Have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the K-12 science textbook adoption. All in favor? Thank you for that presentation.
CSIP. All right, so we started our CSIP process back in January with surveys that went out to teachers, students, and community patrons. And then with two dates in January, 2 dates in February, our CSIP committee came together and worked to develop our motto, mission, vision, top priorities, and started to develop some goals and some action strategies. Action steps. And so then as an admin team, we met 2 different times really to break down specifically what we wanted those goals and action steps to look like. So we did delay this process a month, but I feel like it was worth it so that we could make sure we have an actual working document to move this into the next 4 years. So overall, our motto, learners today, leaders tomorrow, with our mission to empower and inspire learners to maximize their potential. And all of that around our vision, which is to be a leader in providing innovative opportunities and experiences for our students. And I really feel like, I shared this once before, that during this process, there was just a lot of really good conversation from all of the stakeholders on pinpointing what those strengths and those weaknesses were, what our opportunities are that we're missing out on, and what threats are keeping us from moving forward as a district. So really feel that we've kind of encompassed all of that in our motto, mission, and vision, as well as our beliefs. And so with that, then we designated top priority areas, and we had a committee of almost 30 people. So we had a couple that couldn't come up on a couple of different nights, but we had non-certified staff, we had certified staff, we had administrators, we had board members, we had parents, we had business owners, community members, and then we also had 2 students who, one a middle school and high school student who participated in this process. And overall, when we came up with our top areas, we came up with 4 priority areas: student learning and success. We had overall staffing, recruiting, hiring, developing, compensating, retaining. That was a big category. But looking forward, we really want to spend some concentrated efforts looking at how we're going to recruit and retain staff, especially with the concerns of teacher pay right now and those leaving the career field. Our goal 3 was, priority 3 was school safety, security, climate, and culture of wellness. So we wanted to look at all of that. It's a big category too, but school safety isn't always just safety entrances at our doors. It's also student feeling safe, mental health, bullying, which leads to climate and culture of the building, of the district as well. And then our 4th goal, I skipped one, hold on. our priority 3 was district operations, management, facilities, and finance, and then 4 is safety and security. And so part of the process too is making sure we have a timeline and who's responsible for each of those action steps. And some of the timelines were, I feel like it's a lot up front and a lot ongoing. And that's because the things that we discuss and the things that we're gonna do are already in the works, or we're really going, and then it's, once we get it in place, we need to continue to monitor it and have it ongoing. So, so some of the timeline, I think are harder to follow, just in the fact that it's gonna look like we did a whole bunch right up front. And this is a 4-year plan, but some of the ongoing pieces that we're gonna continue to do, sometimes implementing something's, it's the ongoing, that's the hardest part too. So I do thank all the committee members, and I do think that this is a document that as a board, we really need to be looking at frequently when we're in the decision-making process. And the same with the admin too, when we're talking about professional development, and we're talking about where we wanna go and decisions we wanna make, that it needs to align with this, because this is what our stakeholders said that we need to focus on. And then the same as the district kind of gives us a financial lead into when we make financial decisions, making sure that it's aligning with everything that we said that we were gonna do.
Well, I just want to say, I think that the process was helpful to have a lot of voices at the table, and then for the admin to take it back and really go deeper into sort of the nitty-gritty of what you all know. And one thing that I've seen that has happened, whether it's a CSIP or a strategic agenda or a strategic plan, is that it's done and that it does get put aside. And I just wonder, this is really a wondering, if there's a way for us to reference the priority areas on our school board agenda. So when we're voting on something that's related to priority area 1, student learning success, like the book, the curriculum, just naming it so that it just becomes an evergreen, top of mind. Because we've already met one of the strategies, right, around science. To look at have those demonstrations. And so I think having it always in, top of mind is helpful in just pulling it out.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's easy to do, and I've seen that done before too. For example, in executive session on personnel, we just put CSIP priority 1. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was able to go to 3 of the meetings, and everybody here knows how lengthy those were, and they were great meetings, but just for all those watching at home, these were 4 sessions of 3.5 hours. I mean, just the people that were involved and that dedicated their personal time to do this, it was lengthy and it was time consuming. So I for one, definitely appreciate everybody doing it.
Absolutely, and hearing and of course with the shifting of conversations and sitting at different tables with different people, you heard a different view of different things, and it was, I thought it was very rewarding.
I can say every time I've been involved with anything like that we've done there at the school, it just reinforces the quality of the people that we have. So it's
Absolutely.
a great experience for me. Questions? Comments? Anybody in the audience want to say anything? You guys are all there? Okay, with that, then I will entertain a motion in a second for the approval of the continuous school improvement plan as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Randy.
I'll say.
Just a little bit quicker.
Sorry.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? That's everyone. Thank you. We'll move on to 2023-2024 preliminary budget.
Correct. And in this budget, I'm going to kind of go through and explain what is in this budget, but then also I left it up for board discussion to determine how we want to move forward. But essentially, so this is preliminary budget number 1. And the purpose of this budget is to look at where our dollars are to determine what we can do to staffs, certified staff for raises. So this budget is our projected revenues. I did not increase. So this is saying nothing's going to change in our assessed evaluation, even though it's a reassessment year. So this is assuming that we're not going to get any additional revenue. And then it's looking at our projected expenses. So what we did was we rolled over this year's expenses into next year, and then added to it some raises to be able to look at. So next month we'll come back with another preliminary budget, which will have some more solidified numbers for revenue, but we'll see an increase in revenue. and then the recommendation for non-certified increases as well. So this budget removes stimulus funds, and preschool grants funds, so that's a difference between budget to budget. So it's really hard when you click on the links if you're trying to compare last year to this year. There's just a lot of moving parts between staffing who come and go, and the difference of a teacher who left and a teacher we hired. So there's a lot of fluidity there, so you can't really compare this year to last year, but we did roll over those set expenditures of everything that we know. We did include the bond payment that we have. We did include our lease payment. We updated what those will be. We did an increased estimate of 8% to our music insurance, our property insurance. This budget includes a step for all certified staff, a step for all the classified staff, a $700 base to all of our certified staff, which is a 1.85% increase. So then that same 1.85 goes to all admin and directors. And then we did add 5 years on the salary schedule to start eliminating. I know I discussed we have a lot of teachers that are frozen, and so the goal is to add 5 years every year, so eventually we can open that up so we don't have teachers frozen on a step. But financially, we want to do it in 5-year chunks so that it's not as burdensome on the budget. We are continuing career ladder. We've added the new position for social worker, but that also was with a grant, so we added those revenues, but within there's going to be benefits and retirement. So that position's added in here. And then health insurance is staying the same. So we've already gotten one quote, and we've gotten a little glimmer of our second quote, but we haven't sat down and had that full health insurance meeting. So we did change brokers, and we have a new broker who's working a little bit harder for us than our previous broker. So we've already received a bid back from United Healthcare, who we have, with a 0% increase in health insurance costs.
Wow.
But he has a bid from Blue Cross at 8% less. So now it's the negotiating part, and we still are waiting on 2 bids from health consortiums. So this budget just has our health insurance staying the same. So it could go down from what it is this year, but for this year we have it the same as what it was for last year. When I come back in April, the revenues will be updated. I'm anticipating a 10% increase to our assessed evaluation, but we have another meeting with Jackson County, and I have some more information coming from Jackson County. So we are anticipating that 10%, which could be almost $500,000 in revenue. But I wanted to present this budget without that, so that we could determine for sure safely what we can do. We'll be coming back with classified raises. The transportation contract, what that increase will be, which is probably going to be 5 or 6%. And then we'll know ideally what our benefits costs are going to be. So knowing that, we still are sitting in a pretty good place when we look at our revenues to expenditures, and because that's not assuming that we're going to have any increase in those revenues. So I did attach our teachers' salary schedules for you guys to be able to see those, and I did attach what it looks like if we do a $700 to the base, or what it looks like if we do $1,100. So this proposal initially, when you're looking at those numbers and what you see are expenses, and then the surplus in green, that is assuming that's a $700 base. So, but the way that those look at the end, and really the push right now statewide is to get to $38,000. Minimum salary, and if we do the $1,100 to the base, that puts us at that $38,000 for the minimum, step 1. And so on that board discussion tab, or section down there too, with this budget, including the $700 base, if the board feels like $1,100 is a better option and something that we really want to pursue, that would be an additional $65,000. Plus a percent increase for directors. So I would come back with direct numbers for those for next year, but it'd be about $90,000 more than what is into this budget, what you're seeing.
Do you have an idea if, I still can't believe it, but if the insurance actually goes down in cost?
That never happens.
Yeah.
Never.
If
Yeah, don't expect that to happen.
Now-
If it were to go down the 8%, how much, what does that quantify to? Is that $10,000, $100,000?
It's about 150. But what we're bargaining too is one we're using that as a bargaining tool because we've been with United Healthcare for a long time. So switching is always it's difficult and it's hard on everybody. So using that as a bargaining tool, which our broker didn't know that if United Healthcare would come back and decrease. Blue Cross is decreasing to get our business.
Right.
But some of that, an option that I threw out was, well, if they don't wanna come down dollar-wise, what we're spending, maybe we can get some healthier plans, or what about a staff wellness room with some equipment and create a staff gym? Could they contribute to some things like that? So there's quite a room for bargaining. I don't anticipating it end up decreasing if we stay with United Healthcare. But United Healthcare is going to have to make that pile a little sweeter somehow to stay with them. So, but it's decreasing. We need to realize we paid for that huge increase. They came at us last year with a big increase, and we were able to deduct it down, but by losing some of the wellness features and some of the perks for our staff, we had to go with some pretty high deductible plans to keep that cost the same. So, even if we stay with United, can we stay with some healthier plan options is the goal. One of the things in healthcare options that you're giving is an HSA plan, but usually it's because it's a lower cost, and so the district's contributing funds to that. That's the enticement to get a staff member to take the HSA. But right now, the district's HSA plan is so high that we're not able to contribute. So trying to get that plan down lower is a goal as well.
Well, looking at this budget, I mean, just hearing what Giovanna just said previously, there's so much of this tied to what we talked about in our CSIP plan as well, with retaining and recruitment teachers, with the mental health piece and safety and security and support, and so yeah, good stuff.
The other piece that I will possibly be bringing in April is we've had discussions with teacher recruitment as well, both at the CSIP and an admin meeting. So district policy currently states that a teacher can bring in as many years of experience as a superintendent will allow. We've always just underlying unwritten rule said 10 years. That will allow somebody to bring in 10 years. Again, with the shortage of people applying, we don't ever want to turn somebody down or have them turn us down because we won't give them all of their years' experience. So one of the things, but you don't want to open that up when we have current staff who've been here and dedicated for several years, who they aren't currently on the step that they could have came in with all their years' experience. So, so the next piece that I'm looking at, I went through just the other day, that we have 15, based on my calculations, 15 staff members who currently aren't being paid on their career years experience. So they eventually sometime came to Oak Grove and we didn't give them all their years. So the next step would also be to go through and calculate what that cost would be. And if we couldn't afford to put them at their total years experience, maybe we could do 2 or 3 years at a time over the next few years, just similar as we're opening up the salary schedule to ease that budget a little bit too. But there's very few things teachers have when it comes to their pay, but the years experience is a big one. And if we can give those back, and then that also appreciates them for being here, but it also allows us to, from here forward, allow teachers to bring in their years experience.
There's such small space between the steps.
Yes.
That I can't imagine that if you had 15, that it's gonna be such a big number, and that you wouldn't
Unless you're
figure out
over,
how to do it.
unless you're over father, if you have the specialist,
Sure.
But yeah, so we're gonna look at that and try to determine, but overall, if we go out for a tax levy increase and it passes, then I'd like to really dig in and revamp the salary schedules, to really create, to have it be robust, but really create that longevity and built-in longevity into it. As a district, we have some longevity built in for our non-certified pay scales, but we don't for our certified. So if we could build those in just a little more healthily, and revamp some of those salary schedules, that'd be a perfect time to do that.
Yeah, because I think when you start at columns 1 through 4, the step increase is so minimal that if there was ever a year down the road that you're not able to do an increase to the base, that it's just
well, and another thing, I've just done doing some research in other schools and their salary schedules. There are a few schools, I thought it was just one at first, but I found 4 or 5 that they've eliminated across the top they've eliminated it being by degree, and it's just by hours. So what that does is you have staff who join cohorts and go on for bachelor's, master's, specialist, doctorate. But you also have phenomenal teachers who have no desire to get a curriculum degree or an admin degree, but they want continuing learning and continual professional development. So if they can get professional development in their coursework and in their field and the content that they're teaching, then could they still move over? So it's ongoing professional development. They can purchase the college hours, but instead of it going towards a degree of a master's or a bachelor's to get paid more, it's just continuing education. So that's an option too, but it's still built into where if I do go get a master's or a bachelor's, I meet those overall hours. Instead of it just being degree-based, it's just hour-based. So that's an option to look at too.
Well, and I think that's helpful because it opens more avenues to get college hours, because the truth is, when you look at what you have to pay to get that increase, it's sort of like,
Right.
it's a deficit really.
Well, and with the cost that we have less and less people going on to get masters and bachelors. So then we have more people being frozen, especially if they're frozen at their years. So we have to provide those opportunities for people to make more money if we want to keep them at Oak Grove.
Well, I'm all for figuring out how we get the most out of what we're able to do at this point, because it gets us a step closer to what we know is coming. I think we have to get to that 38 at the base. I would love for us to be above that. And so, because, I mean, I know if we look at our other districts that are around us, even if they go to 42, if you don't do any increase, it's gonna take you a little while to get to that, and that's a $4,000 difference. And so, if we can figure that out, to at least be on that even playing field, I'm for that, so.
When you bring that back, can we get some examples? I mean, like, hey, teacher A would go from, this to, not just 1,100, the step and all that, but an actual number. They go from 46.4 to 48.2. They'll go from, I don't need names, but just something so we can accumulate to what did that.
Well, and I can.
By the time it flew through the chart, we added the years, we added the base, we did all this. What did that? It's a lot of
just
numbers.
a few.
Bottom number come to.
Base teacher would make 1,100 more than this year, but then I can go through and give, a couple veteran teachers at masters and specialists and just show you what those increases are.
And how many people can move from with those 5 years being added in?
And I think
If you put the percentages in perspective with just market in general, I mean, it's a 1.85.
Yeah, you're not keeping up with inflation.
Not even close. It's like 7, 8 is what you're trying to do, at least a 4. And it outside of, and I get schools are different because that's
They all have to
public
shop at
funded.
the same grocery
But-
store.
Yep.
But we're already behind the curve so much.
Well, I think just even knowing the number of staff we have that are frozen, it would be surprising to me.
I had volunteers when I said that we were going to open it 5 years at a time for the next few years. That she was going to get 5 years because this person was frozen and would jump 5 years this year, and knew she would jump. So actually, what it made her look at was, well, I was thinking about retiring next year. If I wait 2 more years, I'm going to bump even more. So those are the purposes. That's why, one, we want to say thank you to our teachers who have been here and stayed dedicated, and two, if we've got great teachers, we want to keep them.
I mean, what other field are you asked to stay in your job?
For 1.85
Yeah.
increase.
Or do you get frozen, you can't ever move just because that's the way the scale is designed?
Until there's a base raise,
Remind me, how much is Career Ladder? What's the potential?
So Career Ladder, it's based on your years. So it depends on how many years you've been teaching in Missouri. You can earn $1,500 if you're Tier 1, $3,000 if you're Tier 2, or $5,000 if you're Tier 3.
We're just approving the preliminary budget, not the base.
Well, you wanted some direction.
You just want direction, you mean?
Yeah, so I would like you to approve the preliminary budget as is, which is just a 700 base, or approve preliminary budget with the 1,100, which would be a 65-20 increase, and I'll get exact numbers next month. So I want to know, on this preliminary budget, do you want 700 added to the base or 1,100?
And at the top, you said that all things remaining equal, we would have a surplus of 484. So we still could have some room for classified even with that additional
Yeah, and so
65.
that's the piece to consider. You know, we're looking pretty aggressively to it, classified raises. And I think we have to keep them employed as well. So that coming back, I mean, I would plan on $250,000 increase to this, what you see there for classified.
You talked about doing the 5 years. Is that something that you would want to continue until it basically finishes out the structure, like all the way down?
Yes. Every 5 years until it's completely open. Or every year, add 5 years until it's completely open.
So we need a direction on the 700 versus 1100 in the motion.
Yeah, what is that, what we need to move on, which one to do? Is that what we need to do?
Well, we need to approve preliminary budget with either.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we approve the preliminary budget with the base increasing by 1,100.
Yeah, I think that should be the goal and the direction, so I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve the preliminary budget with an $1,100 increase.
And hopefully we'll have a significant assessment increase as well. That will help absorb those costs.
Any questions, comments? Have motion and second for the approval of the 2023-2024 preliminary budget with an $1,100 base increase. All in favor? Everyone? Thank you.
I know our staff will greatly appreciate that, so thank you.
It's a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Small start. We have some discussion items.
We do. 504 is up first. Mr. Nichols. Come on up. We've got 2 program evaluations. Here's a clip.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Section 504, Program Evaluation, shares some information about our 504 program. It is a special services program. I'm the coordinator. Ms. Henderson is our director. Special Services is a 504 program. It does affect students K-12. Section 504 overview. It's a plan to ensure that children who have disabilities are identified and receive accommodations to ensure their academic success and access to the learning environment. Disabilities definitions change from time to time, but they are disabilities that impact students physically, emotionally, or cognitively. So strengths of our program, increasing consistency, and the biggest one that stood out to me when I started working on this was our dedicated school staff, our teachers, our administrators who are committed to meeting the needs of all students, which are very challenges. Child-5 requirements are always a challenge for our program. Ongoing court cases, legal interpretations with the law, and also ongoing updates from the Office of Civil Rights. Program facilities improvements. The biggest thing that jumped out to me when I was looking back on this is our adoption of SPED Track in our Special Services Department. This was enables us to streamline our procedures and processes and increase our efficiency. In addition, ongoing facilities upgrades, elevators, handicap parking, and sidewalks, increasing accessibility for all students. Goals, just continue to support students with disabilities and remove barriers, continue to improve consistency and increase efficiency with our procedures and paperwork that are required, to continue to seek and attend quality professional development and improve our best practices, and improve our timelines for Section 504 requirements. Program summary, the number of students served. We have 138 students with 504 plans K-12, and I've got a breakdown by building there. Currently, we have 12 students in process as of last week. In our program numbers, that works out to be about 7% of our students with 504 plans and compared that to approximately 3% of U.S. students. Unfortunately, I didn't have any information from DESE to share on the numbers, but that does say that we're doing a good job identifying our students and helping them get the services they need. Any questions?
Two slides, can you go one back one slide?
Sure.
Is that normal, the stratification across that from 15, 25, like it gets larger as you go to high school, is that normal? I mean, is that?
I would say yes, because, so at the elementary, you think about kids in one teacher's classroom, majority of the day. A lot of the different disabilities and impairments don't present until later as students get older, but also so many times those classroom teachers just take care of and do some of those accommodations, and as they get older, you need that plan because they switch teachers, so that the equity and the continuation continues from teacher to teacher.
I'm just curious with post-COVID, if there's an increase in requests for identification.
That's a great question. In 2008, there were some updates, and the definition of who would qualify for those 504 plans was broadened. And I think that, coupled with what you mentioned with COVID, has kind of increased that too. Number of students who would be eligible. And then the guidance from the Office of Civil Rights kind of expands that and are more concerned about what do the kids need as opposed to how do they qualify. So increasing that accessibility is important.
Any questions? Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, federal programs.
Okay. Federal programs. I took over federal programs this year, so I am learning as I'm going. So I'll just give that disclaimer real quick. Okay, so federal programs, just an overview. So that's a part of the Every Student Succeed Acts, which used to be known as No Child Left Behind. Here in Oak Grove, we get Title 1A funding and Title 2A funding. But also underneath that, we have parent family involvement, foster care, and homeless, and that's under the McKinney-Vento bill. And I'll get more into specifics for each of those here in just a second. Okay, so Title 1A goes to our preschool program, and Michelle gave you a great overview of that already this year, so I won't go into specifics of that. And then it's also at our primary building. So basically the reason for the fundage is to just, for those kids who struggle, to close that gap for them. So that helps with, it could help with facilities, materials and supplies, our Title I staff with salary and benefits, parent family involvement, and then professional development. Title 1A does include an evaluation every year. Title 2A does not. So this will be my next step, is getting together. We get together stakeholders, teachers, parents, community members. We get together and talk about, you know, our strengths and our weaknesses, what can we do better, and what worked. So that will be our next step, and that just has to be completed by the end of the year. So right now our Title 1A offers, we have 2 title teachers at the early childhood and then with 2 paras, and at the primary we have 2 title teachers. So we also offer professional development for the school staff. Again, we're giving those extra time to Title I students for the skills that they need. Additional materials, so like right now at the primary, they do book bags that go home for them, so that's just extra material for them to read at home and whatnot. And then also that family development, parent and family involvement night. So we have an annual information meeting at the beginning of the year. We have themed family nights, and then at the early childhood, they do in-home visits as well. Title 2A. So the purpose of this is to increase academic achievement by helping improve teacher and principal quality and ensure that we have highly qualified teachers. So what this does, it helps with consultation with non-public schools, again, professional development, materials and supplies, and new staff to improve classroom instruction. So how we're using it is that we were able to get an instructional coach this year for the elementary school. Right now, the RPDC, which is the Regional Professional Development Center, is working with the elementary, I should back up. Title 2A is only at the elementary building. So they are working to align the math standards with their curriculum. Materials and supplies, we are talking about bumping up our gifted program. We feel like we're not identifying those kids enough. And so we've talked about doing, right now we're just going off parent and teacher referrals. Admin and our gifted teacher have gotten together and we've talked about doing universal screeners in grades 2 and 5. So we're gonna need some funding for that, and we can use that through Title 2A. And then also our letters materials for teachers that are going through the training, we're not sure, but we think we might have to pay for some of those materials, and if we do, we also have funding for that to cover as well. And then also the funding for non-public schools come in. So anyone who is in a non-public school, private school, who are residential students, so they can be in Kansas City, they can be anywhere, but if they're residential students here, those schools can register with us to get title services as well. We didn't have any this year, but I have received 4 schools this year for registration for next year to get some of our title funds to help their kids. And then just at the top, other components of federal programs are foster care and homeless students. So basically what we do, a lot of that money goes towards transportation. Right now we have 4 students that we pay for transportation, that they live outside the district, but because we would like consistency for them and whatnot, it may be a temporary situation, we pay for a ride service, or we do 2 things. We pay for a ride service to bring them, and then we also do a employee use a school van to go get students as well. And that helps with costs when they are able and volunteer to do that too. So strengths of our program is just the instructional coach, like I said, at the elementary. So that has helped greatly with aligning the curriculum and helping model instruction for our teachers. It helps facilitate transitions from building to building. And again, because we're in those title programs, we have a lot of progress monitoring that we're doing. Again, we are providing transportation for those students who are homeless or in foster care to provide consistency. And then again, we're providing opportunities for parent-family involvement. Some challenges, we're seeing more and more kids that are being identified as title services. They may not qualify for special education, but they're still struggling. And unfortunately, there's just not enough funding, resource, and time to go around to all of them. Right now, under Title 1A at the primary, we are only offering reading. So our 2 title teachers are only doing reading. So we would love if they could do math at some point in time. We would have to add, again, that's the funding resource time thing as well. Right now, our elementary school, again, is only the Title 2A. We would love to, and Misty and I have talked about this, to take that to a Title I status, and we would either be a target or school-wide program. And so that's something that we'll really talk about when we have that meeting at the end of the year about what we can do better next year and how we can do that. We would really like to see that happen as well. Again, our emotional needs for our students continue to be a priority. And then we're also identifying those high schoolers to provide resources for to improve school success as well. So I think goals for us are just to assess the needs for next year's program with that meeting, and then continue to align our curriculum with the Missouri Learning Standards, explore more ways to reach more students through available funds, which again, I think that is part of that gifted piece that we were talking about as well. And I just said that, and then use funds to identify students. Is that it? That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Are the 4 students who we're transporting, were they once students in our district? Is
Yes.
that why we're doing that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Either foster care or homelessness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Move them. So they're still students here.
And we've had families that have tried for us to transport, but they were not students here first. And so they have to be a student here first and then become homeless or foster care for us to continue that service here.
Okay.
Because the whole reason is that's for consistency for them to stay
Is
here.
there a limit to that? I mean, 13 months or something? No.
And there's also no additional funding for that. So the McKinney-Vento bill, so it's a bill that tells us that we have to do it, but they provide no funding for it.
the homelessness status is good for 1 year.
Not-
Yes.
So they'd have
They
to.
can't claim homelessness for
Correct.
13 months.
This part is true, yeah. I thought you
Okay.
meant like how many
Okay.
kids we could have
But that-
providing
Okay, so
transportation.
they say, hey, this is a short-term Band-Aid
Mhm.
to get yourself back here and we'll to keep
You know, it
consistent.
depends on the situation,
Situation.
but once,
Yeah.
once you qualify for homeless, you're qualified for a year. So you have to reestablish it the next year.
Mhm. Yeah, and we also take a look at the foster care kids too, because it's supposed to be a temporary solution, but if it's more than 1 year, is it really temporary at this point?
Have we looked at how we identify or how we run the homeless list since Darty was here?
It's a state statute, so we follow state guidance.
Didn't Darty have his own guideline for that?
I don't know.
Mhm.
That's all. Okay.
I'm not sure.
So so Title I, federal dollars based on something, is how do you get additional title dollars?
So it's based on a funding from the state. So federal money comes obviously from the feds to the state level, then they have a formula.
So the state determines.
The state
it.
determines. Mhm.
And part of that calculation is free reduced.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that would, so when we talk about like a Title I program at the elementary school, if we're talking about targeted or school-wide, that would really determine on our free and reduced lunch status.
The percentage.
Yes. If we could go school-wide, I think if it's 40%, and if it's not, we'd have to go to a targeted
So
model.
is there any way to make the completion of the free and reduced lunch a mandatory part of the school enrollment, since so much is
It's
enacted?
mandatory to this extent that it doesn't prevent a kid from starting on the first day. So you could make it required in all of those back to school enrollment
You can't opt
features.
out of it?
But to make, you couldn't, eventually it comes down to, and we chase parents, you know, sometimes for immunizations or for, there's a variety of things. But we couldn't tell a student, you can't, by law, we have to say, you can't come to school if you don't have updated immunizations
Right.
or exemption. But we can't do that, we couldn't do that because they didn't fill out a free reduce, it's supposed to be voluntary.
Mhm.
But we're just trying to send the word and send the message that it helps our school, and they have changed the standards, so it makes it harder to qualify now.
Mhm.
But it helps you. I think the big sell is, you often hear parents are afraid that if they qualify, that then the school knows their status and knows their information. It goes to one person and puts it into our system for our district. So that confidentiality piece is there. I think it's also important that parents know and understand it's no different. If 3 kids go through the line and 2 are free reduced and 1 is paying cash, when they go through and put in their pen and get their plate and sit down and eat, it looks the same for every kid. So there's no identification, there's no unequal treatment. It is the same. So just getting those 2 misperceptions, misconcepts out of parents to know that if they fill out, it helps them, but it greatly helps our school as well, and the funding for title programs.
Mhm. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have our 2022 MSIP 6.
MSIP 6 APR report. So as a board, when we met with the city, when the final one came out, it's higher. The embargoed one that I had presented to the city at the joint city and board meeting, we had went in and Chris had petitioned, we had some ICAP points that were missing. And we also had superintendent certification as not met. So this is updated, and so we ended 2022 MSIP 6 APR with 79.1%. And so I'm very pleased and proud of that, and we're gonna celebrate with staff. We've got little treats that we got to the elementary middle school today to celebrate with staff. Just to say thank you, because this is the hard work that they have done. And again, as shared with at that joint meeting, is just to let everybody know, one, this is a totally different report card. This is a different scoring than what we had in the past. Last APR we got was 2019. It was scoring us on different standards at different percentages at different points that we could possibly earn. So this, we can't compare this to that, because our scores then were, would you say, we're talking 96, 97?
96.
Yeah, 96%. So this is based on MSIP 6 standards, and this is our first one. So this is our baseline. So next year, we'll sit there with 2 different reports and compare where was our growth and what did we improve on. But all in all, what we can compare right now is we compare what points we earned and what our achievement scores were, and we can compare that to area schools. And from every area school that we've talked to, ours are higher. So we're very, very pleased pleased and proud of that across our conference, that our scores are as high as they are. So it shows us on our performance totals, which are the assessments that we give our students. It also scores us on continuous improvement, which is having the CSIP plan, having the climate culture survey, all that's required in MSIP 6. It looks at all of our audit, our ASDR, and also looks at our success ready students, which is looking at our kindergarten assessments, looking at our ICAP plans, which are the school career planning, looks at our attendance, and our district doesn't have CT expansion, so it doesn't look at that. But it looks at all of those and puts them together in scoring rates and gives us our points. To give us that 79, we earned 79.1% of our total points possible. So just kudos to our administrators and kudos to our staff.
It's the highest in RBC West.
What?
It is the highest in RBC West.
We are the highest in RBC West, yes. Highest in our conference, so we're really proud about that, and especially coming out of COVID, just to know how well we scored on those achievement scores is proud. And we're always happy to be Pleasant Hill, so. That's right.
Says the man in purple.
But anyway, so just, it's definitely a bragging time and a bragging moment, and going into spring break this week, we're gonna telling our teachers they get a raise and that they did so good on MSIP 6 scoring. We'll definitely send them into spring break on a high note, so.
Excellent.
I think spring break's a pretty good deal either way, though.
And spring break,
Yeah,
those are a lot of good things in one.
Yeah.
The legislative update.
Well, to play on that, and I don't want to play on that, but it's sad that there are a significant number of state legislators who have jumped on this big time. And in fact, I saw a tweet last night from Bill Eigel, who's running for governor, and just, I mean, basically just ripping the state, the schools across the state. That say there's 100 schools that are not, that would be provisionally accredited, and doing exactly what you just shared. We can't do. We can't compare. You can't compare scores based on two completely different outcomes. It just amazes me that that's taking place, but it is taking place, and I think it's important for our public to realize all those things you just said, that this is completely different. It's that there's some frustrations with DESE by a number of committee members and things too, that they thought they should have waited and not tested last year, rolled this out later. Might not have been a bad idea, but we are where we are. So that's unfortunately being kicked around by schools or by state legislators right now. And there are a host of things that are, I think the biggest concerns that I see, I don't know what's going to happen to the open enrollment bill. There's talk that it will be changed in the Senate to possibly include charter and maybe even private schools. Brad Pollitt, who sponsored the bill, said he would vote against it if that happened. I guess we'll see. And there's enough still political infighting between the conservatives on the Senate side of the Republican Party that they just may stall out and nothing may happen. And that wouldn't be a bad thing, because like this week was a good week because last week was a good week because they were on spring break, so no harm done when they were there. But I think there are some significant bills that are still, I hope they don't gain legs, but I know these guys have heard about the Parents' Bill of Rights, and for parents out there, it's not like that at all. It's an arduous nightmare of record keeping that parents have access to right now. So that's a frustration. I think the funding will be interesting how that comes out. Senator Lauren Arthur from Platte County has actually introduced a bill. It's not out of committee yet, but that would actually increase funding for the state. And I don't know if any of you guys got a chance to wade through that 41 pages of and thank you, Christy, for signing us up for that. That there was a webinar that MSBA, their eyes on things look at things a little bit differently, but they talked a lot about the financial financial piece and aspect of that too, but it'll be interesting because so little actually occurred prior to spring break. It'll be interesting if there's so little occurs after, or if it'll be a nightmare flood of effort with amendments tacked on and trade-offs and things. It'll be interesting. Giovanna?
Nope, I will just say right now that it's really around looking at what has legs and what's gonna be the omnibus bills and what can we help to peel off should we need to. Because usually if it's a slow year, everything gets thrown on the one that can succeed.
Yes.
And nothing may succeed.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, administrative update. Who wants to go first?
Michelle.
Yay! One of these days, we'll start at the high school.
Where's Tyler when I need him? Really next to him. We had the mobile zoo come and they brought a parrot and a frog and they had a learning stations for the kids to play in. So that was a really fun experience for our kiddos and informative. We've also had Baroque Woods Conservation come and they brought a turtle and they taught about taught the kids how to learn a girl box turtle versus a boy box turtle. And they read Are You My Mother and shared the native animals and their babies. They also shared about conservation and what we can do to help our environment age appropriately for our kiddos. Miss Kelsey and I hosted a fine art night for a select group of our students. We did Van Gogh, the sunflower painting, and we're gonna have another session of it this week, but that was kind of fun to bring some of our 4-year-olds going into kindergarten to something, because you can't do it as a whole group necessarily, so we were able to really delve into it, and that was fun for us. And then our PAT group ladies will do, we'll complete our screenings for our 46 that will be going to kindergarten next year. They're gonna start those next week, and then after spring break, they're gonna do it that first week of April, and we're also doing our home visits the first couple weeks of April, so that's what's going on in our world.
Good evening, everyone. I was late this evening getting here because we had about 1,000 people over at the primary building for Grandparents' Night or Special Persons Night. So huge turnout, always have a great turnout there, but it's a lot of fun for our kids to show off their classrooms in our building and kind of be in charge for the night. So, and as we know, our grandparents like to spoil their grandchildren. So of course we have a lot of fundraisers going on. We had the book fair. Our Mrs. Bickle, our music teacher, had with Mrs. Hampton's support help serve cookies and lemonade for the proceeds there to go to our music program. So we had some bingo games going on, and Interstate Studios was there taking pictures of our families too, and for no charge, and was emailing them out to our families.
Wow.
So kudos
Awesome.
to them for all that they did for us tonight. Also, as Michelle mentioned, this week is kindergarten screening week at the primary. So our students not in the early childhood center, who are just out in the community, have made appointments to come in and be screened by our kindergarten staff. So that started today. Kind of going back to last Thursday, we had kindergarten information night where those families got to come in. Again, as big of a turnout. Grandma and grandpas are welcome to attend that too, and do come. So that night, our kindergartners got to go back into our kindergarten classrooms, take a tour of the building, get to take a bus ride, and have some special treats and make a craft with us. So it was a fun night and always one of my favorites. So that's about it. So thank you. Yes, Jim.
What's your potential in kindergarten enrollment look like from
Well-
last year to this year?
Well, the difference is adding that extra kindergarten class or 4-year-old class over at the Early Childhood Center. It's made us identify over 20 more 4-year-olds out there. So right now they have 46, and we've contacted every daycare and have at least received 20 plus names per every daycare, which is about 3 or 4. So we're over 100 already that we know of that we are screening and that are planning on attending, which every year is a little bit different, but it does seem a little bit higher than normal. But I think it's just because we've identified some kids now at the Early Childhood Center, which has been helpful. But it always seemed to range around 140, 150. I don't know how that always happens, but that's just how it works. So we'll be ready for them.
Yep.
So, and we've already promoted summer school and have a lot already ready to sign up for that. So I think it'll be highly, participated in this summer too. And thank you, because the district always chooses to pay for buses to bus our incoming kindergartners to school, and that's a huge benefit for our families to be able to do that, to get them here. It's very important to get those kids here. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Well, things have been going on in March in the elementary. On our March PD Day, Shay Thomas, I've talked about her before. She comes from the RPDC and works with us. We'll talk a little bit about her specifically on math, but we purchased some math manipulatives earlier this semester. So she did some work with our teachers, specifically in the area of fractions, because we all love fractions. It's a huge part of the math test in every grade level. So she spent an hour with each grade level talking about how you use the manipulatives with fractions. Also, our instructional coach, Kendra Gaston, spent an hour with each grade level talking about Senate Bill 681, another great topic, and legislation and what's happening and what it means for us at the elementary level. On March 9th, we had 7 high school students from the Future Teachers Association come to the elementary to observe in several of our classrooms. They've been talking about classroom management, so they came into our school to observe some of our best teachers with their classroom management strategies, and then they had some good discussion afterwards. Last Thursday, the 6th grade band from the middle school, we had several students from that come over, and they did an assembly for our 5th grade students as they'll be headed to the middle school with the potential of participating in band next year. They showed them several different types of instruments, and soon after spring break, they'll be coming to the music classes to give our students an opportunity to try instruments to see if band is the direction that they want to be going. Some things that are coming up. Our 5th grade students will be traveling to the middle school on April 5th to tour the middle school and to get to meet the 6th grade teachers. They're very excited about that. And our first round of MAP testing is less than 1 month away. And we'll start with our 3rd graders, April 18th through the 20th. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There actually is even legislation to get rid of the math test. Just saying.
Just talk to you guys a little bit about our building focus at OGMS this month. One of the big focuses we've been working on is student scheduling. So we just finished our scheduling presentations for our current 6th and 7th graders, getting their classes picked for next year. So we did that last week. Some of the things we used our PD Day for is preparing for our fourth quarter. So we went and looked at our essential outcomes, identified those, and then did some mapping with our 4th quarter curriculum to make sure that we have everything aligned there with resources and anything that we need to reteach based on our information from the 3rd quarter. Also working heavily on map testing, logistics, and preparation for that. So our teachers are getting ready to do online tools training and some different training with the kiddos just to help them with familiarity and being confident in those things. Obviously, looking at some of the end-of-the-year activities, it's crazy to think we're already there, but planning some of those things out. The calendar's filling up quickly, so trying to keep those all aligned and preparing for those. And then, as many have mentioned, also just getting ready for our summer school, getting that planned out, and figuring out the logistics of that. And then also personnel, trying to fill spots for open spots so that we have the best personnel possible. Just some updates on things that we've been doing in the building. On March 3rd, our vocal music traveled to Fayette to the Central Methodist Music Festival. Students performed very well there. We had several students go, but they did well. And Mrs. Neese does a great job with not only individual but small groups that did very well at that competition. And then the very next day, our 6th grade honor choir went to UCM for a district choir there. And then we just finished our winter band and choir concert Thursday, March 9th and Monday, March 13th. Some of the things coming up this week, if you want to see something that's really entertaining, our middle school is putting on a school play. So it's the first time we've done that, I think, for several years. But Mrs. England and Mrs. Howard have been working with our students after school, and it's the Trial of the Big Bad Wolf. So our kids have been having a lot of fun with that, and I look forward to seeing them celebrate that on Thursday and Friday. Obviously, spring break coming up the 27th through the 31st. Everybody's excited about that. And then we get right into our track season and our spring season. So our first track meet is actually at Holden on April 3rd. And then Misty mentioned on April 5th, we'll have our Oak Grove visit to the middle school. April 4th, our 8th graders will actually go to the high school to tour the high school and get acclimated to that and introduced to that. And then before you know it, April 6th will be our fourth quarter midterm, and then track, and we'll be at the end of the year. So, any questions? All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Tracy.
Last week we had our academic letter ceremony. Congratulations to our roughly 120 students that we honored at that ceremony for their academic performance, including our senior top 10, and then Matthew Gorsline as our salutatorian and Kathleen Hudson as our valedictorian for this year. Appreciate those of you who can make it to that ceremony. Thank you for representing the board. Seniors received their graduation caps and gowns and announcements last week from Jostens, so they know the end is near, so to speak. I will meet with them this week to discuss some end of the year events and graduation topics as well. We also are bringing back Career Day at the end of this week on Friday. We have several industry and business leaders who are coming in to share their information with our students. Students are going to choose 3 different vocations to see in the afternoon on Friday. I appreciate Jerry Pierce. He was the one who has always organized and run that event, and so he is doing that again for us this year. Our EOCs start April 17th and end April 28th. Our teachers and students are working with practice forms and item samplers right now in the next few weeks, preparation for that. Calendar-wise, AP exams the first week of May, senior finals the second week of May. We do have baccalaureate set for Thursday, May 11, if you want to put that on your calendar. And if you can attend that event, we would love to see you there. It will be at New Life Church again. Ministerial Alliance organizing that. Senior Breakfast Awards Assembly graduation practice on Friday, May 12th, and of course commencement on Saturday, May 13th, 7 o'clock p.m. is what it says on the announcement, so we're going to hope that it stays at 7 o'clock p.m., but we should be hearing about district track and district baseball here in the next week or so. Hopefully they don't send this to Buffalo, Missouri again this year, but we will see. We're at their beck and call. Project Grad then, of course, is May 13th, that evening after graduation, into the 14th as well. They are planning, Project Grad Committee is planning a senior parade again through town. They do not have a date set for that at this time. As soon as I know that, then I can share that as well. And then, of course, everybody else's finals on May 16th and 17th. We have all of our high school faculty and staff now trained as teenage mental health first aiders. Thanks to Mrs. Hampton for giving us that information, and then for First Call to come in and give those 2 training sessions for our faculty and staff. Our April PD Day is going to be dedicated to continuous curriculum development. We've been separated the last couple of PD days because of that mental health training, so now we'll have our teams back together and able to work on curriculum development. As far as activities are concerned, Coach Selke's supervising our soccer tournament tonight. I mentioned our speech and debate 2 individual qualifiers, Allie Dickey and Saul Logan, earlier tonight. Our theater 1 act took 2nd place at the district competition, and so that qualifies them for state as well. Antigone is the 1 act that we're performing this year. They actually only missed first place by 1 point, and so they performed extremely well. So middle to end of April is the state competition in Springfield. We don't know exactly where we're going to perform yet, but we'll get that information out once we know that. Choir and band, mentioned solo and small ensemble contest this Saturday at Green Valley High School. Large ensemble, they also do large ensemble. The choir large ensemble state competition this year was scheduled for Tuesday of spring break. We had an extreme number of students who were not going to be able to attend that. So Mrs. Shoup hired judges to come to our last concert and actually rated us during our concert. And so if you were there, we had a little break in between each of our 3 groups who performed so that they could go do their sight reading in the choir room. So Radiance and Impact, our 2 show choirs, earned exemplary ratings, and our choir concert earned an outstanding rating at that. Band, their large ensemble contest is April 5th. It's a Wednesday. And then jazz bands, we have 2 jazz bands. They will perform at the 18th and Vine Jazz Fest on April 22nd. Our last band concert is April 25th, and our last choir concert is May 1st. Special Olympics have their state competition this weekend. On Friday we have students in bowling, and on Saturday we have students in basketball. Soccer I put down as 1-0, but they're actually now 2-0. They won tonight 8-0, and so played in the snow last Friday and played in 60 degrees today. So welcome to Missouri, right? Our Panther Cup tournament is what we're hosting this week. Baseball started their season tonight as well, and are 1-0 now. We won 5-4. We walked with the bases loaded to tie it, and then got a single to win the scoring run at the end. Golf starts this week. We have a tournament tomorrow. We have a duel on Thursday and another tournament on Friday. So we're going to jump right in. We were supposed to start last week, but it was like 12 degrees outside, so they didn't play golf. Track also starts this week, Thursday at Marshall and then Saturday at Warrensburg. We had 8 students who competed in the district National History Day competition at William Chrisman through the Truman Foundation, and all 8 of them qualified for the state competition. Again, later in April, they'll travel to Columbia with their projects for that. Scholar Bowl, I mentioned MRVC champions. We will host the district tournament in April, so home field advantage for our kiddos. Hopefully they can win that and continue on to state. They did also attend the tournament and qualified for the national tournament, Scholar Bowl wise. So you will probably see some information coming out here before too long about that. From what I understand of it, which is very little at this particular point, almost 300 schools across the nation will be in this tournament, and it'll be held in Atlanta. And there's some hefty fees that go along with that, so they might be doing some fundraising here before too long to try to get involved in that national tournament. But it's later in May, after graduation, after school is done, so kids will have everything done and nothing to worry about except for competing in that tournament. So we thought that was an excellent opportunity for our kiddos as well. So. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for the updates. Last item on the agenda with a slight correction is our next regular monthly meeting, April 17th, 2023. It will be at 5:45 because that's the reorganization.
And it's a week earlier than the regular meeting because of, we only have so many days after election to hold the organization.
Because of legislation.
Legislation.
Right. I'll entertain a motion. We're going to have to adjourn and go back to executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff.